No, he just walked in, he sat down.
No, I'm not, you see, they're probably not working, now the teachers are going to go out.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got to that. I wouldn't have got it the first time. I felt like I had to do it. I mean, I was been bad.
It was my blessing. All right, Mr. Myself, tell us about it. I got the dust off.
It's like a job.
You tired, aren't you?
How many good stuff,
You know, when I drive by all those places, I'm always looking around. That one, taking a look at it.
Grass just needs to be cut. There's two different owners. We know the realty side. I'm jotting that to do.
Do we have an ordinance?
Because I was gonna ask that you, I think that was brought up to me, about the main thoroughfare coming in.
We'll figure out who owns it. And then, like I said, if we can't find an owner. Appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah.
So if this passes tonight, I mean, especially you, because I never see you, to sign the MOA so I can get it back to Shelby County. So don't go anywhere after is what I'm saying.
That needs another person.
Why do I have a union?
I have no idea. I guess they want you to buy
So
some.
can we purchase them?
Are they still playing?
Girls have their, girls have their,
So this is, what level?
what is it? 4 teams is, Clay Central.
And then we go from there to.
How do you have so much mail? Why you guys all in here this week? Oh, but
That's a
like you
that's
got invitations for us? What you doing? You bored up?
Get better things.
Huh?
I get it.
One of them.
I get it.
So Ashley's not here. Okay, 6 o'clock, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the May 3rd council meeting for the city of Columbiana, so it's May already, that's amazing, isn't it? Okay, so I'd like to ask Councilman Rustin to lead us in our invocation.
Sure, let us pray. Dear God, thank you so much for the opportunity to join as a group tonight, God. We appreciate allowing us to be here tonight. Lord, I ask you, Lord, just be with the meeting tonight, be the things that we've discussed, let it be for the benefit of the city. God, I ask you, Lord, just be with the people in the city and the people that make it go on a day-to-day basis and also people that protect it. God, I ask you, Lord, just to be with the people that may be hurting or sick right now, God, and Lord, just allow them to recover well. And Lord, again, I ask you to be with me tonight, be with our city as we go forward in this year. And Lord, we appreciate your mercy and thank you for your grace. And all things we ask these names, your name. Amen.
Amen. You'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm going to pop the agenda up there for you guys to look at while the clerk calls the roll.
Councilmember Lilly.
Here.
Mizell.
Here.
Rustin.
Here.
King.
Here.
Phillips. Mayor Mitchell.
Here. Okay, so you can, I'll give you a little bit more time to read the agenda. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the April 19th council meeting. Council has received a copy of the minutes, and everyone should have had the opportunity to read them. Are there any recommended changes, edits, or additions? Okay, if not, let the record show that the minutes are adopted by unanimous consent. All right, so before we get into our department head reports, we've got Mr. Grady Thornton here as a candidate for Shelby County seat on the Alabama Republican Executive Committee. So, Grady, it's all yours. And if you would, you'll stand up here. We're going to try to get you on the video.
I'm gonna try to look better if I know. I have to try real hard in that case, though. I'm Grady Thornton. I am a resident of Helena. I live there with my wife, Laura. We're both retired educators. And I am seeking, as the mayor pointed out, is a position on a committee. Now doesn't sound good to start with, but it's an unpaid position. It's unreimbursed, and it's a lot of committee work. So why do I want to do it? Shelby County has 9 seats on the state executive committee on the Republican Party. Every party has an executive committee, which is not unlike what you do here. You kind of arrange things, and then the people go out and do their jobs. And that's what I've been doing. I'm in an appointed position right now. The past 2 state coordinators have appointed me because of volunteer work that I've done with the state committee. I've worked as, matter of fact, my first real job was here in Columbiana. There's a little house, it used to be a little house right behind the stadium over there. And that little 4-room house started a program that would eventually be known as the Day Program, Developing Alabama Youth. It was an alternative school for Shelby County. Judge Patty Smith, I think, was one who helped put that together. And I worked there for 4 years. We pretty quickly moved to Siluria because me and the other 2 counselors, our offices were picnic tables outside. We just didn't have room for a school there. But it was a very important part of my career, being involved here. I really fell in love with your town. I ended up living in Helena, and I'm happy there. I love Shelby County. I'm from Coosa County, a little town near Rockford, Alabama. And I grew up there, moved to Birmingham in 1975 to go to school. My interest in this position is because my unique experience with the public, I think, has given me an idea of what the problems of Alabama are. I started off in crisis intervention and suicide prevention, went from there to mental health, from there to prevention of domestic violence, from there to juvenile offenders. And I did family counseling along the way, and I kind of got an idea of what things were like and the things that people needed. I hope that this will put me in a position where I'll have at least a say-so. I'll have somebody who will hear me, and those people will help make platform and policy that the eventual leaders of Alabama will go by. And I feel like I have a unique perspective on that. I also did some stock car racing photography and writing. I've been published in national magazines, and I just enjoy being a retired educator right now. It's kind of worth working hard for. I tell these young folks, it's hard now, but work hard for it. You'll enjoy it. It was a great opportunity for me to work with the at-risk population. I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I'm just thrilled to be here, Mayor and Council. I appreciate you bringing me in. Things have changed a lot since those mid-'80s, since I worked over here. And it looks beautiful. I can't wait. The drive is great, and I just look forward to meeting you. And maybe we'll be working together in the future, too. Thank you very much, Columbia.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Grady?
Please, need more time.
No, but it's interesting. I don't know. I learned something. I didn't know that, usually when people come to council, it's about an elected position in terms of an office. I didn't know that those types of things existed.
Well, most people don't. That's why we're down near the bottom of the ballot.
Yeah.
Is where we get left off a lot of times. I'm the only Grady on the ballot.
Okay.
And this is, I guess the best way to explain that, this is a party position as opposed to a public position.
Right.
And as I say, each political party has an executive committee. They're not all necessarily chosen the same way.
Okay.
But we help set policy and platform, and then present that to our elected officials, and we work together with the elected officials.
How long is the term?
4 years.
Okay.
I've been on for really longer than that because I've lived in Jefferson County. And when I was on, from about the year 2000, I moved to Shelby, and I got appointed by, like I said, the last two administrations appointed me because of the work I've done for them.
When you say administrations, like state administration?
Yes,
Okay.
usually. Well, we work with the local parties as well. And by the way, you're all invited a week from tonight at the new Shelby County Service Center over in 280 is the Shelby County Republican meeting. Everyone is invited. I've spent a lot of my time working with women's groups, college groups, and young Republicans and minority GOP, trying to bring more people into the circle.
Okay.
You're invited.
Very good.
Tell the bouncer at the door I said you.
What time? What time is
It'll
it?
be at 7 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, there's a tour of the new service center building over there. So if you get there that early, you'll be able to see what things are working on that side of the county. Thank you again.
All right, so again, the only ones who would be able to cast a ballot for you would be those who voted in the Republican Party.
Correct. And I assume on the Democrat Party it's the same thing. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But the ones who voted in the Republican primary, I really, as my folks in the old days who say, I covet your vote.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. So now we'll get into the department head reports. Fire department, do we have anybody from the fire department here? It's pretty much the same old thing. I need to talk to Johnny. Everything's green, so that's good. You know, his ISO is probably, although it was a good report, it's kind of old news now, so we'll take it off the highlights chart. And the same thing, the facility, I think we are sort of pushing that out a little bit. I think we've determined that the urgency for the new fire station was not as great as we once were, primarily due to some changes in the ISO regulations. And the staffing will continue to be an issue for us. However, he has made some strides, which is why he's showing his staffing green up at the top left quadrant with recruiting some new personnel. So other than that, pretty much everything on there is the same. Any questions on the fire department? Library.
Everything's going good. We had a full-time employee and a part-time billing person. And she starts Thursday. Her name's Christy Jones. And the part-time, he starts Monday, and his name is Butch Wildsmith.
Butch what?
Wildsmith. And one of our employees right now, part-time, is cleaning a building, but you know, somebody will apply for
That would
that
be
job.
nice. Yes. We haven't had anybody apply.
And on highlights, we're supposed to be in the Shelby League League this month. We made junior this year for being voted best library in Shelby County.
Congratulations. That's a big deal. I'm really proud of you and everybody there for that. Okay.
Getting our summer reading.
Good. So any questions for Sheila in the library?
Good job, Sheila.
Again, I think we all need to be talking that up. I think that's really important, and we're really proud of you for that. Environmental services. All right, so we got somebody here who actually knows what's going on.
So you got the man for the job. Before safety, no injuries during this fiscal year, everything been good. Budget is on track. Staffing regulation is no change since 2023. Facility, we still keep an eye on the aeration liner because it kind of popped up and we're trying to figure out what's going on with it. Do we have a breakdown in the soil or whatever? But everything's still good right there. All right, in the sewer lines, we're currently working on upgrading some of our collection system, as all you guys know. And compliances, no change. In training, we start training this year. Matter of fact, we start class Thursday, right here at the rec building for grade 2 training, which we need. because town is growing and we gotta further our education so we can grow with it. And, issues and concerns, everything good right there.
So, on the sewer lines, we had 2 sewer projects, one on Highway 25 going under the road,
Yes.
and we had talked about starting that project in April. Has there been any activity on that?
We spoke with Dave Baker, the engineer, last week, and they supposed to start the end of May, is what they tell us.
So now it's the
we
end of
should see
May.
something, yeah, this month, here this month.
Do we have a ballpark idea of how long that project's gonna take?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. And they won't have to block the road, they'll just bore under it and we'll be good to go. And the Highway 70,
It should have been started also, but it's kind of slow also. It's behind schedule.
so it's contractor issues, is it material issues, or do you know?
Material, getting all the material from what I understand, and, the contractor's working on that right now as we speak.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, is
Chris?
that what's going on behind Cultivate Church? Does that have anything to do with y'all? Or is that part of the sewer?
No, that's a little further up than,
That's something else?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thanks, Chris. All right, Community Affairs and Senior Services, Ally had to step out, I think, because of the softball game tonight. So basically what I'm going to do is just kind of go through the highlights on the upcoming events. Art on Main Street this Saturday from 10 to 6. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. I think we've had some coordination issues on that. We got Music on Main will be every Friday night in June. I've looked at some videos of some of the folks who'll be performing on Main Street. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good June for music is concerned. And then Farmers Market every Saturday night from June to August, or every Saturday from June to August. And then, of course, Liberty Day, June 24th and June 25th. I did talk to Allie about getting some links put on both our website, Facebook, and other places for both Music on Main and Liberty Day, and maybe put some links to some of the videos of the entertainers, because we do have some good groups. We have a party band, variety band on Friday night, June 24th, similar to the band last year. And I think for folks here in Alabama that will attract folks is one of the videos, this band played at Nick Saban's daughter's wedding, and they had the reception apparently in Bryant-Denny Stadium. So all the Alabama fans will be excited about having that group here in Columbiana on Friday night, June the 24th. And then on the 25th, it's Muscadine Bloodline, and they currently, I think, have a song in the top 40 that's on the radio. So we're good to have a current performer there. Senior Center is still cranking out the meals. Got their grant, and Main Street's doing some things as far as doing some work around town. I helped them plant those 32 baskets over the weekend. Still working on some of the facade grants, and of course they are involved in the vacant building. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Main Street and some of the issues regarding the Art on Main this weekend. I think in the other business discussion for the city. So, any questions for Senior Center? Okay, board reports. We'll start with the rec board.
I don't have anything, but I would like to bring up, last meeting, we changed that ordinance to allow a 6th person on that one. So if it's okay with council, I think the next step is like to present Chuck Fant to be approved to that board. If we're able to do that tonight, Charlene, are we able to do that in board reports? Can we make that appointment?
Sure.
Okay. Other than that, the Park and Rec Board will meet next Monday. There'll be a lot of good things on that agenda. So we're just full steam ahead. So.
Okay, well, to that end, I nominate Chuck Fant for the position on the Recreation Board. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's
And his term will just go 6 months after is that still in limbo?
Yeah, we'll just stop at 6 months. We need to codify the exact dates, and we'll do that when we fill out the paperwork for his appointment. That way it'll keep it staggered a bit. Okay, Beautification Board, you guys
We met last night.
met?
We have we're gonna be working on the planners to go to match the hanging baskets that, Main Street did. We just have a lot of projects in the works. We're working on, possibly having veteran signs like Montevallo and offering those to people. And that's about it. We just got a lot of things going.
So Montevallo is putting their signs up for Memorial Day. I drove through Montevallo this morning, so they're in the process of putting those signs up. So.
And we plan to do ours for Veterans Day.
Well, they do it for Veterans Day too,
Yeah.
so it's something that you might want to consider for both. Typically, Memorial Day, however, is intended to honor those who gave their life in service, where Veterans Day honors all veterans. So,
Well, we're going to have a booth set up on Liberty Day to let people sign up, and it's going to take us some time to order them and that kind of thing. That's why we were waiting until Veterans Day for this year, and then we'll decide what we want to do from there. When's the best time to put them up?
anything else?
Mhm.
Any questions for the Beautification Board? Sheila, I put the library board on there because the calendar told me that there was supposed to have been a meeting between the council meeting. Can you tell us anything about that?
We just discussed, hiring, new people and, Mary's retiring
Right.
and, all the libraries, we adapted a few changes in our library policy and, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Frances was, it looked like she was doing some paperwork with someone this morning. Is that one of your new library employees? Okay.
That's Christmas.
Okay. Any questions about the library board? All right, so there was a planning commission work session last week. I sat in on that particular work session. Essentially, it wasn't their regular planning commission meeting, but as I think everybody knows, so we have this resolution that would authorize me to sign a memorandum of agreement with Shelby County for field lighting at Lewis and Bolton fields. Now, we have been looking at the lighting situation for some time. It's incredibly expensive. We've been trying to do sort of a patchwork fix and repair. We replaced lots of bulbs during the off season. We still ended up having lighting issues, and we found problems with ballast and problems with wiring, and even the cost of just patching it and fixing the ballast and the wiring was going to be quite expensive. And so the Recreation Board had some conversations with the county council and the county manager, and the county has agreed basically to fund the vast majority of putting new lighting on Lewis and Bolton Field. The city's portion, and we talked about it at the last council meeting, would be about $18,125, and we determined that based on the maintenance that it was going to take just to patch up the lights, it was probably going to take about $20,000 or so to do that. So to that end, I think it's a good idea, at least I am recommending that we sign this memorandum of agreement with Shelby County to take care of the lighting. So is there a motion to adopt this resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to introduce Resolution 052202. It's authorization for you to sign MOA with Shelby County for new lighting at Bolton Lewis Fields.
Is there a second?
I'm happy to make that second.
Okay. Because we'll have to
It's me.
spend some money here, I'd like to ask the clerk for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lilly,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Rustin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay, so let the record show that the resolution was passed unanimously.
That has been needed for a long time.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. I mean,
And-
this
and
is really, really
So
good.
thankful that Shelby County's helping.
Yes. Okay, discussion of the business. I wanted to, if I may, bring up this issue is, I don't think, I think there have been some potential issues with coordination. Particularly small municipalities like Columbiana, we are absolutely dependent on boards and committees and commissions to help us get our day-to-day business done. And, the volunteers who do that sort of thing, we couldn't function without them. So we appreciate what they're doing, but sometimes, even though we try our best, maybe we don't do as good a job of communicating and coordinating with folks. And I had an irate business person contact me this morning about Art on Main, or actually about midday today, and the fact that Main Street was going to be shut down for Art on Main. It would limit access to this business. And I didn't know that Main Street was going to be shut down this weekend. I spoke to the chief of police earlier today. He didn't know that Main Street was going to be shut down this weekend. We had the Beautification Board meeting last night, and the Beautification Board was planning to plant planters on Main Street, I think this weekend. We discussed about getting the material for that. And so the bottom line is we need to do a better job of communicating. That's not the only example. I think there's some others, and I won't go into that. So I am going to tomorrow take on the issue about closing down Main Street for Art on Main for Saturday. I'll take that up first thing in the morning, and I'll try to bring in all the relevant stakeholders and come up with a solution that's going to work for everybody. The reason for shutting it down, the plan was to put stages on each end of the Main Street, and there was going to be some entertainment by the school. They were going to have the school kids performing on those stages. Obviously, that's been planned. If we take that away, those kids are going to be very disappointed, and we don't want to do that. But at the same time, the whole purpose for Main Street is economic development. And if our businesses on Main Street feel like that we're interfering with their business, then we've sort of failed at our purpose. And it's all just a lack of communication, in my opinion. And so what we need to do is, and I'll try to do this as we come to a solution, which I believe we will be able to come to tomorrow for this weekend's Art on Main, then we can use that to develop processes and procedures and put something in place that's going to help us do a better job of communicating. And also not at the last minute. I mean, the problem came out was because the communication was attempted, but it was attempted today. And it was like, what? This Saturday? And again, people believed there had been some communication earlier, but when we looked at it, it said, yeah, there's going to be Art on Main, but there was nothing said about closing Main Street. So we had some problems there. So that was all I wanted to do. I don't know if anybody else has any comments or concerns they'd like to make. I just think it's we desperately need and appreciate all of the boards and committees and the Main Street organization and what they do for the city. And I hate to complain, but at the same time, we just need to sort of iron out some of the kinks, if you will, so that we can work together a little bit more cohesively. Any comments or questions about that?
I agree that it needs to be discussed and worked out tomorrow, and a plan come that not only one or two people know what's going on.
Well, I've got an idea that I think will
Not
solve.
that was intentional, I'm not saying that.
It was
I'm just
not
saying
intentional.
I didn't even know it was going to be.
It was just, like I said, a lack of communication. And I think that we can work out a solution, so it's gonna work for everybody. Okay.
I do have one other thing. I mentioned to the mayor before the meeting, and chief, maybe we can, there's a couple properties right there coming in across, just Dollar General property and the property next to it. That grass just got out of control.
Yeah.
And I didn't even, I was talking to the mayor, he didn't notice, I didn't really notice it.
I drive by it every
We
day,
talked
of
about it
course.
last night.
But I think we need to do something about that. Obviously know who owns the Dollar General property. I think they have somebody that cuts that grass, and then the next property over is owned by the individual.
I had to find out who the next door property, the Dollar General's already been told
Okay.
last week,
Okay.
the week before last, you gotta get your grass cut, they said they'd put in a ticket for it, and I was actually giving them till towards the end of this week.
Yeah.
Nothing's done.
That's good. So I think that's that's a big thoroughfare. And, so anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, that's good. That's one of obviously, our objectives is, we want to make a good impression when we have visitors come into Columbiana and, that Highway 70 there.
With RM Lane coming.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any other new business or discussion?
Also at our meeting, we had a Hispanic group that would like for police department and the fire department, and maybe have some, home safety training or something. Do it for library.
Yeah, we can set that up. We've even applied for a grant for the fire department through the Safer, it's called the Safer Grant, to be able to provide that training throughout the community. Now, we haven't been awarded that grant yet, but just as a side note, so we under.
To the library,
Right.
and had one meeting, to get the, I guess it's just a familiar with the library, or just, for their community to kind of get together.
Mhm.
But they wasn't showing up at the library, so she does a little something at home, that way they come okay and not okay, because she's at home. But she asked, I called her and asked if anything we could do, and that's what she suggested.
Okay. All right. I'm all for that, so we'll follow up on that. Charlene, would you make a note to bug me about that tomorrow, so I'll remember, follow up on it. Any other discussion or new business? Okay, mayor's report. So as most of you know, the city has a team that is participating in the inaugural class of the Economic Development Academy, which was established this year by the Alabama League of Municipalities. Our regularly scheduled class was for the 28th of April. Most of our team was not able to make that, so they attended, and there are 30 municipalities, by the way, who participate. And they're broken up in groups of teams of about 6 teams. Anyway, most of our group participated with another group that included Chelsea and some of the other municipalities surrounding Birmingham. And that was on the 6th of April. I went to the one on the 28th of April, which is when we were scheduled to, because I couldn't make the 6th with the rest of the team. So that's all that is. That was the second class. We have a project that we're working on. We have 4 sessions. And so, as I'm sure they learned at their session on the 6th, we presented some economic development projects at these sessions. And our next session, we're supposed to present sort of a status update on what we've done. So hopefully between now and the next session's not until August. So hopefully we will have made some progress on that. And I think we will. So the next thing, I brought this up at the last council meeting. There's a requirement for the mayor to give a semi-annual financial condition statement to the city council. I emailed that to all of you last week. I'm going to try to briefly go over that, but I'll come back to that. On the 11th of May through the 14th, the Alabama League of Municipalities is having their annual convention. This year it's in Tuscaloosa. On the 12th of May, the Regional Planning Commission of Greater Birmingham. Now they serve 6 counties, and Shelby County is part of that, and most of their funding is federal funding. They are involved in a comprehensive economic development strategy, and they have established a committee, and I was invited to be on that committee, but I can't make the 12th of May thing because of the League of Municipalities convention. So 2 members from our planning commission, one, the city clerk, Charlene, will be going, and Amy Dixon will go and attend that strategy committee meeting on the 12th of May. And then our quarterly Shelby County Mayors Association meeting is on the 25th of May. All right, so the semi-annual financial conditions statement. Okay, this is based on the first 6 months of the fiscal year, closing 31st of March. And the thing that's important to try to go through this quickly is our budget for the year, our total budget. We have a general fund budget, and then we have the comprehensive budget that includes all the other funds. Assumes about a $2.5 million surplus at the end of the year. We are currently sitting at a surplus of about $2.7 million in the general fund, and another $5 million surplus in comprehensive, which includes the general fund. So that's way over, and the issue is mostly timing. We develop our budget. Some of our revenue, we don't know exactly when we'll receive that revenue. Same thing with expenses, and just like the projects that Chris was talking about that have been, pushed out by a month, we have other things where we haven't had the expenses. So what we have is financially, as far as revenues are concerned, particularly in the general fund, we're pretty much right on the money. As far as revenue in the major funds, of all cumulative funds, we're way ahead, but also on both of them, where we are is we are way, way under as far as expenses are concerned. So that's why we have this deficit here. So basically, to sum it all up, the general fund is tracking to, the revenues are tracking to plan, the expenses are significantly below plan. That's primarily a timing issue. The cumulative receipts from all funds plus cash is slightly below plan. However, the cumulative expenses are significantly below plan, so it leaves a net surplus here against our budget. So in general, the data indicates that for fiscal year 22, our budget assumptions, I think, were reasonable, and the city is tracking to its planned budget. The city's liquidity and cash position are very strong, so we're able to meet all of our financial obligations. We're right now, again, because of the timing of some of these expenses, I think we're sitting on a lot of cash in all funds. Other than the general fund, most of the other cash in the other funds is restricted cash. In other words, it has to be used for specific purposes. Okay, indebtedness. So let me try to go through this. This is the city's debt. So basically we have about $15.2 million in debt. And the majority of it is these 3 items at the top. We have a 2020 general obligation warrant that was taken out for the Old Mill Square, and the current balance is about $2.4 million. We have a 2021 general obligation warrants. This was, we refunded the city's outstanding general obligation warrants in 2021, in April of 21, and that balance is about $3.6 million. And then the cooperative district revenue bonds, which is again the Old Mill Square. These general obligation warrants for 20 and the revenue bonds for 21 were all financing for the Old Mill Square, and you have a balance of about $8.6 million. We have 2 smaller indebtedness or obligations that are associated with tax abatements, one for the Taco Bell and the other one for Columbiana Square. Now, the thing about these is these balances aren't really accurate, and neither is this. This is basically what we've paid thus far this year. If you wanted to look at our annual debt service for these tax abatements, you could probably triple those numbers right there. So where that's about $10,000, when you add those two together, it'd be about $30,000. The maximum obligation that we have to pay to Taco Bell is $267,000, and to Columbiana Square, which is where Pizza Star and the Dollar Tree are at, and the thrift store is $300,000. At the rate, and this works out to where the Taco Bell it's 37.5%. We rebate them 37.5% of the city tax that they collect, and on the Columbiana Square, it's 50% of the city tax that they collect, and that's what these payments reflect, is us paying them back the rebate for those taxes. And we will pay them until we either get to the maximum commitment of these numbers right here, or we reach these dates right here, 2030 and 2026. At the rate that we are currently paying them, at the rate that they are, that they themselves are paying sales tax, and that we are rebating them, we are never going to get close to these numbers right here. This one, we might pay $150,000, $160,000. This one right here, at the current rate that we're going, we'll be lucky if it costs us $100,000. And I say lucky, they will be lucky because of the rebate. So the total debt, if you tripled this right here, took this number up to where it's about $745,000 a year in debt service, would go up to about probably $775,000 for total debt. So now what I'm supposed to do is, as mayor in this report, is tell you all how I'm going to protect the city's credit rating. And so what I wanted to do real quick is talk about our statutory debt limits. And we have two provisions under the Alabama Constitution. One is Section 225, and the other one is Amendment 772 to the Constitution. Under Section 225, our statutory debt limit represents 20% of the taxable property in the city of Columbiana. And this includes, in addition to real property, this is vehicles as well. So any property that you pay ad valorem taxes on. So the maximum right now under 225 that we could sustain is about 8.6 million. We have an actual of about 3.6. So we have a debt margin. Statutorily, this says under Section 225, we could borrow another $5 million. Under Amendment 772, which is an economic development provision, you can get up to 50% of the assessed value of taxable property. So that maximum would be about $21.4 million for Columbiana. The actual that we have is right around $11 million. So there's about a 10.4 debt margin. So our total debt margin for Columbiana is $15.4 million. So that means statutorily we could borrow up to $15.4 million additional. That doesn't mean that we should, but that means that we could. Okay, so now looking at the protecting the credit rating, our credit rating for the city of Columbiana, as issued by Standard & Poor's, is AA, which is considered very strong capacity to meet financial commitments. Our investment banker who worked on our bond issue last year, as well as our bond attorney, both of those entities and agencies have told us that AA for a city the size of Columbiana is a really good credit rating. So we want to protect that. So what steps can we do to protect the credit of the city? Well, one of them we're already doing, and that's the ongoing budget management. I think we're doing a good job as far as that's concerned. Last year we refunded the debt. That freed up $650,000 for us. It lowered our interest rates, and I think if you go back to the previous slide, I didn't go that, the 2020 Old Mill Square warrants are 1.5, and each year as we retire a portion of those bonds every year. There are certain bonds that retire every year. And the interest rate that we're paying is going up. So the bonds that retire, for example, in 2048, we're already paying a 3% interest on those. We just won't get them retired. But for the bonds that retired this year, we only paid less than 1.5% interest. So for the warrants that we took out in 2021, when we refunded the debt, less than 0.5% interest, that has already been paid. But again, for those that mature in 2048, we're paying 2.9%. So each year it's an incremental interest rate that's paid on that. So the debt refunding lowered our interest rate, allows us to get a little over $650,000 in cash, which is included in that budget that we have for this year, so that we could use it for capital improvements in the city of Columbiana. But it did not increase our debt service, the amount that we pay for the debt, nor did it increase or extend the maturity date of the debt. It did increase the principal, but what that is costing us is the same as it was before. So, and that gave us the $650,000 that we were able to put into our budget and use it for investment in the city. So the other one is the assessment of our financial condition. So we manage our budget, but okay, so we did a good job managing our budget. We need to look at, from my perspective, what is the city's financial condition? Is it good? Is it bad? And there's this thing called a 10-point test, and it looks in 3 areas. One is liquidity. The other one is profitability, which is really kind of a bad term for a public entity, but they call it profitability. And that's essentially looking at revenue over expenses and things like that. And then the other one is solvency, which is, again, going back to the debt issue, debts versus assets, et cetera, et cetera. I'll show you the 10-point test in a minute. The other thing, so we got $15.4 million that we could borrow. And I said that doesn't mean that we should borrow it, but it also doesn't mean that we shouldn't. If we could, we have the ability, I think, to leverage more debt, if you will, for the purposes of economic development. But if we were to do that, we certainly need to do a very thorough business case analysis, a very thorough assessment of costs and benefits, and be able to quantitatively show that if we incurred this debt to do something for economic development in the city, that it was in fact going to generate the revenue to repay that debt. The Old Mill Square is a great investment, and it was done for economic development purposes, but it's also a city park, and the types of things that we have going on at the Old Mill Square don't necessarily make that a venue that pays for itself. Now, the assumption is, and it does, we've shown that it attracts a lot of people to Columbiana, and the idea is that they'll come here, they'll spend money, they'll generate tax revenue, but the egg part of that chicken and egg scenario is that we need more business and places in the community for them to spend that money. And that might, at some point in time, require us as a city to make some investment. But the bottom line is we need this quantitative and qualitative business case analysis if we're going to take on any future investment. In our last audit, we had 12 deficiencies. 2 were determined to be material deficiencies, which means that it could potentially have an impact on the city's finances and financial condition. And the others were considered significant deficiencies. We talked about this at a work session, and so in order to, we can't just ignore those deficiencies. So what we're going to do is we're going to complete a corrective action plan to address those financial audit findings by June the 30th. Now, we're going to complete the plan by June 30th. Some of the things that we have to do may take longer. I don't know yet. But we will have the corrective action plan done. And in doing that, there'll be a root cause analysis done to determine what caused those positions. And then
those problems and then what we're going to do to fix all that. The auditors made some recommendations, so that's going to be helpful. You know, we can look and see if we would be able to implement their recommendations. So to sum it all up, the city's substantially within its statutory debt limit with, I'm trying to combine limit and ample, and it came out limple. Limit with ample revenue, cash and liquid assets to meet its debt service and other financial obligations. I just talked about the process for identifying and evaluating future debt, and then I've talked about the 10-point plan. I'll show you a little bit about that to evaluate the city's overall financial condition. And then finally, we'll do this root cause and corrective action plan to deal with the audit findings on that. So that is my plan as far as protecting the credit of the city. This is a 10-point test. You can't read this. We did I did this with the auditors after the last annual audit. We will do it again this year. But they haven't presented that. They're not done with that. They haven't presented it to us yet. And going back from 2016 to 2020, you'll see that under this 10-point test, these are the liquidity ratios, and I won't go into all that. This is the profitability. This is the solvency, dealing with debt and whatnot. And anything above 10 is considered among the best. And this particular set of ratios is developed for small cities like Columbiana. So it's comparing you against your peers. And so in the 16 and 17, we were 13 and 11. We were above 10. We were among the best as far as financial condition. In 18, we dropped down to a score of 7. A score from 5 to 9 is considered better than most small cities. And what caused us to drop is 18 is when we incurred the debt for Old Mill Square. The only negative rating that we have in the city of Columbiana, everything is excellent, it is debt burden. And that's just more fodder, if you will, to the point about just because we could borrow for $44 million doesn't mean that we should. It has to be something that would pay for itself. So I think we're good. As long as we are above 5, I think we have the opportunity to consider, if the right project were to present itself, additional debt, that we could leverage it in such a way that it would pay for itself, if you will. And I think those are the types of criteria. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Any questions? All right. Announcements. I think I pretty much talked about most of this. Art on Main. We'll sort all that out tomorrow. Red Clay Strays at the Arts Council on the 13th. You may recall they were the opening act for Little Texas at Liberty Day last year. They're very, very good. So I would encourage people to go to the Arts Council, to the Black Box, or to the Song Theater. High school graduation on the 24th. Music on Main, Jackson Walls on the 3rd. We have a farmer's market and a car show on the 4th. Wildflowers is a Tom Petty cover band. The guy looks like Tom Petty, sounds like Tom Petty. I've seen the videos there. So if you're a Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers fan, you might be interested in that. Music on Main, Funky Business. I looked at one of their videos today. Pretty good. Farmer's Market on the 11th. Again, Music on Main, Ivan Duke and Friends on the 17th. I looked at their video as well. Looked good. Another Farmer's Market. And then Liberty Day. We mentioned on the 24th, Rhythm Nation. You might want to check out their video. And again, I spoke to Allie today about getting videos for all this entertainment and putting it on the website so people can see it. But let's talk it up, get some folks out. We had a big crowd on Friday night last year, and I think this group would be similar, maybe better than the one we had last year. I know everybody seemed to have positive comments about that. Anything else on the announcements? Okay, public comments. Anybody have any other issues they'd like to bring up? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
My name is Billy Walker, and I live on Egg Butter Road, and they installed the sewage over there. They had a grant, and the grant stipulated, okay, if you didn't sign up for the sewage, once they completed the job, it would come back, smash everybody's septic tanks, and then you had to pay out your pocket. So you didn't have a choice in the matter. Well, they put one pump in, and they said the pump was cheap, so they came back and put another one in. But ever since they put the pump in, I was having trouble at the pump. I was having to reset it. A couple of times I had to go get Chris. He showed me how to reset it, and he gave me the advice, well, maybe you shouldn't put the toilet tissue down through that. So it was nothing but human waste. It started out every other week, then it turned into weekly, then twice a week. Now I got human waste spewing at the pump. It won't reset, and I don't know what to do about it.
Okay. I don't know that I could solve it for you tonight, but that's be another thing on my list to take up with Chris and Dale tomorrow after I try to solve the Main Street issue. But that's an important issue. We need to take care of it.
Well, Mayor, can I address?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, it was the previous council and mayor back in, I guess, we put the pump in 2015, the one we replaced. And those contractors did put some cheap pumps in down there, because we had to replace 2 resident pumps. And, we went back with the ABS hydro service pump, which are better than what they had. But we installed them in 2015, and I don't think you had to reset the one we installed a lot of times, though.
Yeah, I came to you about 2 or 3 times to Piggly Wiggly, and a couple times you stopped by there. And then Edward, he's a plumber, he lived right beside me. He came out there, and sometimes the pump would do the same thing. The light would come on, the siren would go off, and it did it like in 2021, and I was in the hospital most of the time in 2021, and he called me. He was like, he said, your pump, he said, that siren is going off, you have to reset your pump. I said, I'm in the hospital. He said, you mean that thing is going off while you in the hospital? So it's nothing but human waste in there. I've been living there for 22 years. So I don't know what could be. But he said he don't think that pump is strong enough because I live at the bottom. It's a steep hill. He said he's the reason that he think that light kept coming on, tripping like that, is he don't think that pump is strong enough to push it up there.
So
I know we spoke with the pump salesman, the rep that does those pumps, and he said that they are good to about 7 to 10 years, supposed to be the lifespan of that pump, and yours been in there like 7 years. So I don't know if it's getting weak, but when we replaced that pump, it was told that it was going to be the homeowner's responsibility from that point on forward.
Yeah, that was the last mayor. He told y'all to shut the book on that. But when y'all put that second pump in there, that pump shouldn't have been tripping like that. It shouldn't have been doing that.
So, Chris, let's talk about this
Yes,
tomorrow, okay?
I
Like I said, we're not going to be able to solve it in this meeting, but I appreciate you bringing it up in this meeting so we can talk about it in the morning and see what we can do about it. Okay? Any other comments? Okay. If there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.